The storm had no business being this angry in early autumn. Kaito Mori pulled his collar up and squinted through the downpour, cursing himself for taking the forest shortcut home from his evening shift. The lantern on his bag swung uselessly against his hip. Roots snagged his boots. Somewhere above him, thunder rolled like a boulder down a hillside. He almost missed her entirely. She was crumpled against the base of a cedar tree, a girl, or something very much like one, with two amber-tipped fox ears pressed flat against her silver hair and a bushy tail curled tight around her legs. Her clothes were torn at the shoulder, and where skin showed through, a deep gash wept red into the mud. Kaito stood there for 3 full seconds, rain hammering his shoulders. Okay, he told himself, okay, fine. He knelt, peeled off his jacket and pressed it over the wound. The girl flinched. One amber eye cracked open, slitted, luminous, and absolutely furious at the world, then slid shut again. Her breathing was shallow but even. Alive then, that was something. Getting her back to his cabin took 40 minutes of stumbling through mud with her draped across his back, her tail flopping against his spine and her ears twitching at every thunderclap. Kaito did not think about what any of this meant. He focused on not falling. By the time he laid her on his spare futon and cleaned the wound with his medikit, the storm had softened to a hiss. She had not woken. Her tail, however, had migrated from the futon edge to wrapping loosely around his wrist while he worked, as if it had opinions of its own. Kaito looked at his wrist, he looked at the tail, he decided not to disturb it. "I'll figure this out in the morning," he said to no one, and went to make tea. She was sitting cross-legged on his kitchen floor when he came back from the well, ears perked, tail sweeping left and right with slow, regal authority, eating his last rice ball with complete and utter calm. "You're awake," Kaito said. "You are slow," she replied. Her voice was low and slightly hoarse. She did not look apologetic about the rice ball. Her name, she informed him, was Shira, and she offered no surname, no explanation for the wound, and no thanks. What she did offer, after studying him for a long, unnerving silence with those amber eyes, was a declaration that landed like a dropped cooking pot. "You are my mate." Kaito sat down on the step. "I really am not." "You carried me, you mended me, you gave me your covering cloth." She gestured at his jacket, which she was still wearing over her torn shirt. "In Vulpine custom, this is a claim." "In human custom," Kaito said carefully, "it's called first aid." She considered this. Her tail flicked once, the Vulpine equivalent he would later learn of a dismissive shrug. "Your custom is inefficient. You're injured and you broke into my rice supply. Mates share food. We're not." "You may call me Shira," she said and stole his tea. Bleh. By midday, she had catalogued every room in the cabin, declared his bookshelf disorganized, and fallen asleep in a patch of sunlight on his porch with her ears folded back in contentment. Kaito sat beside her in bewildered silence, mending her torn shirt with clumsy stitches. Her wound was already closing faster than it should. He noticed that too. He noticed other things, the way her ears tracked his movements before he made them, the faint luminescence of her tailtip in shadow, the way she had said mate with total unself-consciousness, the way she now slept with one ear tilted precisely toward him as if he were something worth listening for. Kaito set down the shirt. He looked out at the trees still dripping from last night's storm. "What did I get myself into?" he said quietly. The ear tilted a fraction more in his direction. The tail settled over his knee. He picked the shirt back up. On the second morning, Shira announced she would be staying. Kaito said she absolutely would not. On the second evening, she had reorganized his bookshelf by scent, which, apparently, she found logical, caught 3 fish from the creek with her bare hands, and repaired a crack in his wall with mud and dried grass, the workmanship suspiciously professional. Kaito ate the fish. The wall held. He did not revise his position. He simply stopped arguing about it quite so loudly. "Bleh. You do not want a mate," Shira said that evening. It wasn't an accusation, she said it the way one might observe that clouds were gray as plain fact. They were sitting on the porch again. She had a habit of choosing whatever space he occupied. "I don't know what I want," Kaito admitted, "but I know I don't want you to get hurt again wandering around alone." She looked at him sidelong. Something shifted in her expression, not quite surprise but adjacent to it, like a window opening onto an unexpected view. That is a mate thought, she said. That is a normal human thought. Perhaps, she allowed, your customs and mine are not so different in outcome. Kaido thought about this. Outside, the first stars appeared above the cedars, faint and cold and incredibly indifferent to his situation. I have one room, he said at last. I do not require much space. You reorganize my books by scent. They are better now. We are going to have rules. Mates may set terms, she agreed, as if this were a perfectly ordinary negotiation and not the strangest conversation of his life. Kaido rubbed his face with both hands. When he lowered them, Shira was watching him with her head tilted slightly, ears forward, tail still, the vulpine posture he was beginning to understand of careful attention. He had saved a girl in the rain. That part had been simple. Everything after, he suspected, was going to be considerably more complicated and also, against all reasonable expectation, considerably less lonely. Fine, he said, but you're not allowed to eat my last rice ball again. Shira's tail swept once, wide and warm. I make no promises, she said, and went inside to steal more tea.